we have going on this site. You may say, I already know pokercoaching.com. Well, there may be some things you do not know. I'm going to show you how I make the most use of this site for me, personally, for Jonathan Little, how I go about studying here. And also just enlighten you to all the things that we have going on. I realize this is not going to be a standard nuts and bolts, here's how you play better poker show. But at the same time, this is going to be this is how you can go about quickly leveling up your poker game. Because while I fully realize that learning how to play specific spots is very valuable, wouldn't it be great if all that stuff was just handed to you on a silver platter? It would be, I promise. And that is exactly what we have done at pokercoaching.com. Dur Aline says the whole world is watching. Well, maybe not the whole world, but some of you. So here's pokercoaching.com. If you go there, sign up, log in. This is what you'll be looking at. This is the dashboard. By the way, you can get free access to a limited version of Poker Coaching at pokercoaching.com/free. Cost you $0.00. Okay? I want you to go there and try it. I realize that for some people, money is tight. Whenever I first started playing poker, I was working a $10 an hour job, and I would spend basically all of my money on poker training materials. And, it turned out to be well worth it because, back then, they did their best to hand me the knowledge on a silver platter, even though it was still pretty difficult. But I realize that money is tight for a lot of people, which is why I've made a lot of stuff available for completely free. I mean, this YouTube channel, right? This stuff is completely free. And you can actually get a decent amount of pokercoaching.com for free as well at pokercoaching.com/free. So make sure you do it. All right, here's what we're looking at the dashboard. Usually we have something new happening right at the top. We just released a brand new course discussing how to crush small stakes cash games, how to maximally get out of line and crush your opponents. We'll usually have whatever we have new that just came out right at the top. Here we have a webinar schedule. We have a lot of webinars lined up. This sometimes gets added to last minute because you know how poker players operate. For example, the Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open Showdown, whatever that thing's called in Florida right now, has made scheduling a little bit difficult because a lot of the pros are there playing those games. But you still see, despite that, we have a homework webinar today with me, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, in 55 minutes. That's going to happen as soon as this show is over. Matt Affleck has a webinar in 2 days discussing button versus small blind play in single raise pots part 2. There are a lot of multi-part videos. Matt Affleck's webinars are usually pretty in-depth. He studies a ton, and essentially he shares his study practices with all of the Poker Coaching members. On the 14th, we have a live spin and go play webinar with Ryan O'Donnell. He is the spin and go master. Then you see we have a few days here that are blank between April 14th and April 20th. I can guarantee you something's going to be scheduled in those days once the pros get back home and they figure out their schedule. But this is what we have lined up in the very, very near future. As you see, we have a few webinars already scheduled out ahead of time as well. We have Tristan Wade going through a student's hand history review. We have Play and Explain, like a live stream of cash games with Brad Wilson, etc., etc., etc. As you see, some stuff is planned out far in advance. Some coaches are better at planning than others. But we will do our best to load up this schedule with all sorts of live content for you. If you like this show, well, all these webinars are kind of like that, except for more in depth. All right. Below, we have new features that we have. We have a multi-part series. These are very clear, concise video series because I know I try to keep the YouTube content kind of short, something like an hour or less, but to go really, really deep on very specific topics, sometimes it takes more than an hour. I realize an hour is a lot. It's hard to get good at poker. Oops, made that too big. All right. We have my Masterclass series. As you see here, we have my cash game and tournament Masterclass. We will get to those in a bit. We also have Master the Fundamentals. That is a rather basic series, but it'll get you started if you are new. We have we have a crushing cash game course that's also pretty new. We have a course by Alex Fitzgerald, how to play insert random hand. We have our classes down here. These are essentially either recordings of the webinars or pre-recorded content. For example, here we have Jonathan Jaffe going through the $10,000 buy-in tournament at the Win he recently played. We have Battling at the Middle Stakes, online tournament play and explain with Draft Ganger, one of the absolute best online players in the world. Okay, as you see, there's a lot going on here. Next, we have interactive quizzes. We'll go through the quizzes in a minute. We have our homework. This is the homework we will be going through today. I'll spoil it for you a little bit. Want me to spoil it for you a little bit? Here's roughly what a homework webinar looks like. Let me make it the proper size. Make it the proper size. All right. Close enough. Here's our homework question. In a tournament against a competent opponent, or competent opponents with a 30 big blind stack, action folds to you in the cutoff. What is your strategy? People who are new to poker coaching normally say, well, what is our hand? It doesn't matter. You want to figure out what is your strategy. So here is roughly the hands you're going to raise with in this position if you're trying to play against good opponents. As I say here, you may have to raise a little bit wider if you expect to rarely get 3-bet all in, which will often be the case. So you usually want to raise something like this. Next. Suppose you raise, the button calls, and the flop goes heads up. The flop comes queen, 10, 2. What is your strategy? Again, a lot of people say, what is your hand? But they're not thinking about poker correctly. You want to either develop an implementable strategy like this on queen, 10, 2. Remember, we are out of position here, where we're going to be betting very polarized with our best hands in red, our draws, usually pretty high equity draws like king, jack, backdoor flush draws with overcards like king, 5 of spades, etc. Then you want to do a lot of checking out of position. This is a common spot a lot of people screw up because they continuation bet too often. We're going to be checking all the hands in green, checking all the hands in gray. I also go through and show you the game theory optimal strategy. If you run this straight through Pile Solver, playing against good opponents, here is what you should do. And as you see, Pile Solver does a lot of checking here, 82% of the time, right? And as you see, my strategy, the implementable strategy, was checking 78% of the time. So pretty close, right? And if you can develop an implementable strategy that will play roughly like the solver, you will be in pretty good shape. Fine, so here's our strategy. I go through and I give some advice. Next, suppose you check, button checks back. Turn is the 4 of diamonds. What do you do? Well, again, here we have this, right? And by the way, the students can make images like this. And our range analyzer, we have a lot of programs at pokercoaching.com that you can use. This is our range analyzer, and the students are asked to do this themselves. This is a situation where you need to sit down and actually study the game away from the table. If you're not thinking about poker kind of like this, or if you're a super genius, kind of like the GTO solver, you're going to be behind your opponents who are working hard. As you see, when he goes check, check on the flop, you still do a decent amount of checking out of position, about 2/3 of the time in GTO world. As you see, my implementable strategy was checking 65% of the time, so pretty close, right? Which is good. Fine, here's what we do. Suppose you bet 6 big blinds and the button calls. River is the 5. What do? Again, go through, implement your strategy, make sure it lines up something with the GTO strategy. As you see here, we are betting about 61%, checking 39. Solver does roughly the same thing. You want to make sure, ideally, your bluffs kind of line up with what the solver's bluffing with. You want to make sure your value bets line up with what the solver's value betting with. For example, in this scenario, when it goes check, check, flop, you bet turn opponent calls. On the river, notice that hands like weak queens go for value. A lot of people don't go for value with the weak queens here, although they definitely should. Funny enough, the queen 10 actually checks because you block your opponent's calling range a lot. You're looking to check and then check shove with this, funny enough. Can you value bet a 10? Probably not. Let's see. As you see, ace 10 does not value bet. It mostly checks, right? Hands in green, check. Hands in red, bet. Do we have any other 10s? We don't bet a whole lot of 10s on the turn, so we shouldn't have a whole lot of 10s. So anyway, that's important to go through and note. Then we have another homework question for next month. And we do it over and over and over again. There's a bunch of homework questions. All right, let's just go straight through the top. Here on the left-hand side, we have all of the types of content we have on pokercoaching.com broken down nice and easily for you. Here are quizzes. Let's take a look at this. I appreciate all of you being here, by the way. If you enjoy this show in general, click like, click subscribe. I realize today's show is a little bit different than other days, but I want to show you how to make full use of pokercoaching.com. All right, as you see here, we have a little lock feature here. We have 2 memberships at pokercoaching.com on top of the free membership. We have the standard membership and the premium membership. The ones with a lock are for premium members only. The ones without a lock are for standard members and premium members, okay? As you see, we have a ton of quizzes. I have not taken my quizzes in a very long time. I've been making the quizzes. But what it amounts to is when you go through and take a quiz, you will get a decision point on every well, at every decision point, you'll be asked to answer a question. And if you get 10s, that means you got it right. If you get the yellows or the reds, that means you got them very wrong. And you want to make sure that you are either making the best or the second best decision in most scenarios, okay? And after a while, you will see that sometimes you do really, really well, sometimes you do really, really poorly. And if you, let's say, typically do poorly pre-flop, well, you probably want to make sure you're studying pre-flop poker. You guys want to take a quiz right now? If you want to take a quiz, type that you want to take a quiz in the chat. We'll take like a Faraz quiz or something. Because Faraz quizzes are all over the place. Faraz mixes it up. But as you see, we have a lot of quizzes. You can actually search these by coach, by the actual hand that you have, by tournament or cash game, by stack depth, by the blinds, by the position, by the opponent's position, etc. Okay? All right, you all want to take a quiz. Let's take a quiz. Let's see if this works.
Open King Jack off here in a $55 tournament.
All right, we raise King Jack offsuit $55 tournament, 30 big blinds deep in the hijack seat. Very standard. Some coaches will ask you what you do pre-flop, some will not. This is obviously a raise, okay? Cutoff calls.
Flop is King 10-6 with 2 spades. Do you want to bet 210, bet 360, or check?
All right, what do you want to do? You all tell me. You want to check, bet 210, or bet 360? Some coaches give more options, some coaches give fewer options. I typically try to give 4 options, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the spot. Do we have a description about the opponent? Cutoff versus cutoff flat. So no reads on the opponent here. Seems like you all want to bet 210 or check. I think either of those options is fine and reasonable. You know, funny enough, remember that poker coaching homework question? Let's take a look at this. Suppose you raise, where's the question? Let's see. Against competent opponents, folds you in the cutoff. You raise, button calls. Flop comes queen, 10-2. Take a look at what GTO bets in this spot. GTO is betting, look at the queens, that's what we really care about. King, queen, and better. Queen, jack mostly checks. Queen 9, queen 8, queen 7, these mostly check. Similar spot. When you do bet, notice you actually bet 2/3 pot, 60% most of the time when you do bet. That's because when you're out of position, typically you bet polarized. So this is a spot where I think you either want to go 360 or check. But let's see what Faraz does. I'm going to say bet 360.
We should be doing quite a bit of checking here when the stacks are shallow.
He likes to check.
And we're also late position, out of position. We are...
Notice though, Faraz is just playing straight up close to GTO. Again, not exact same spot, but if you take top pair, third kicker, that would be ace, queen, king, queen, queen, jack here. Queen, jack does a decent amount of mixing between 2/3 pot and checking, right? Which is good. And so this is kind of how you want to make sure that you are studying these spots, because you got to realize that all plays are not going to be necessarily bad, right? Like right here, if you said bet big, I think it's fine. If you said check, I think it's fine. I don't really like the small bet because, as you see, in similar spots, GTO uses no small bets, close to no small bets, right? Funny, we just happen to have that exact one pulled up right now, but it's important to learn that spot, right?
Our range is really wide, and our opponent's range is very heavily centered around Broadway cards, so we're just going to do a ton of checking here. So I'm okay with doing some betting with our best kings, stuff like this. So I don't mind betting sometimes here, but my standard is to be checking here quite often. So we check, and they bet 2.
Not to critique my coaches on the stream for you, but if I was critiquing this exact quiz, I would tell Faraz to make sure you differentiate between the bet sizes here, because I think 360 is just like way better than 210 in this spot. All right, we check, opponent bets.
10. Now do you want to call, check, raise to 500, or fold?
Sola says you thought King XX flops are really good for out of position c-bet. They typically are, unless your range is really, really wide, as it will be in the cutoff. And when you are, as your range is in the cutoff, your range is going to be wider and wider to where you essentially have a lower and lower range advantage. And that's going to result in you doing way more checking. If we were under the gun, we would continuation bet this a lot, because then our range is just way, way, way more high card heavy. But when we raise the cutoff or hijack, our range is going to be something like this, or even maybe a little bit tighter, cut off a few of these. Notice whenever we cut off a few of these, there's a lot of king X, right? So we really just have like a lot of suited connected type stuff here that doesn't connect so well with the flop. Okay? So, I think call is probably standard. As the opponent bets smaller and smaller, you can be more inclined to raise. Usually your best top pairs and super slow plays want to check raise. This is probably not quite good enough, I don't think, so I would just call, but, you know, whatever.
I'm mixing here between calling and check raising. I decided to call here, and I'm going to raise based on how often I think my opponent is flatting and then betting stuff like king 9 suited, king 8 suited. I don't think they're really flatting king 8 suited there, so you know, if they're on the button, I might check raise a little bit wider because I am getting value out of more kings.
I misspoke earlier, by the way. I thought we were button against cutoff. Hijack against cutoff, whatever. Close enough.
But yeah, here just felt good, check calling. So turn, they bet 450. Once again, do we want to check call or check raise here to 1360 or fold?
Louis Philippe, who runs the poker coaching study sessions. We'll get to those in a minute. He says that JL is right. On the flop, we either check or use big bet sizes. Turns out, I guess he ran it through the solver real quick. GTO checks 70% and uses big bet sizes when we bet. Common spot, right? There are a lot of spots that occur over and over and over and over and over. And eventually you start to see the patterns. Typically when you're out of position and you're betting in a spot where you're not going to bet all that often, you usually want to be betting bigger. Usually. Not always. I mean, I'm going to be wrong sometimes. But if you study a lot, I mean, to be fair, if you go through the homework and you look at spots like this over and over and over, and again, I realize queen 10-2 is different than king, what are we looking at? King 10 something. It's like kind of close, right? And it's not going to be exactly like this, but it's going to be kind of close, right? And that's, you learn to extrapolate over time, and that's a lot of value that comes from doing the homework. We're going to call it here, of course.
Definitely calling here, and now the flush gets there.
Farah says, obviously call. So the reason you want to obviously call here is because if you check raise, you're mostly going to get action from high equity draws and better hands, and you will be beat here a decent chunk of the time. If we were like way shallower, perhaps we could justify check shoving, but I don't think we're quite shallow enough for that.
And queen jack straight also gets there. Opponent jams, or are we still calling down, or are we folding?
All right. We have the power card Jack of Spades blocker, which is very relevant. But could the opponent ever have a 7? Natty says bet 1,500. We're definitely not leading. We have 2,100 chips. We're definitely not going to bet 1,500. The problem is that a random 7 makes a straight. But should the opponent have a lot of 7s in their range? Probably not. The question is, what bluffs are they going to have if they are good? If the opponent's good, what bluffs are they going to have? To bet the flop, bet the turn, jam the river, using small sizes on the flop and turn. Ugh. I think in a $55 online tournament, even with the Jack of Spades blocker, I'd probably find a fold. I think this is a spot where if we're playing against good, strong, world-class players, they'll just blast it off with the ace jack sometimes. But think about it. What bluffs actually exist? Think about the bluffs that actually exist here. There's not a lot of them. Remember, this guy flat called from the cutoff. 30 big blinds deep. You know what I want to do? We'll show off a different aspect of the site real quick. Let's see. Let's go over to our tools. Go to GTO Preflop Tournament Charts. 30 big blinds deep, cutoff versus raise from hijack. This is going to tell you the GTO strategy for the opponent. What should they be flatting with in this spot? Remember, the board is king, 10, 6, 8, 9. Notice there are basically no 7s in their range, right? Relatively few. And they're probably not going to blast off with 7s on the flop in the turn. Ace 7 maybe, but there's almost no 7s. Fine. What about spades? There actually are a decent amount of those, but notice a lot of those are blocked by the board, right? Because they can't have the 10, the 6, or the 9, so they're really only looking at like these right up here. But they could have them, but we do block a lot of those with the jack. The problem, though, is what bluffs are there? There's ace-queen. Would ace-queen just bet flop, bet turn, jam river? Probably should, but a lot of people won't. Ace-jack, same thing. Will ace-10 do it? Ace-10's a pair, right? Probably doesn't want to do that with ace-10. So really, think about the bluffs that make sense. It's going to be ace-queen, ace-jack. Notice we block the jack. Find some more bluffs, man. Look, find some bluffs. King-queen, we lose to, although he probably doesn't have king-queen. The opponent's going to have like 2 pair and better here. Notice they could have king-10 suited, king-9 suited, king-8 suited. Queen-10, what is queen-10? Queen-10, with that bluff, probably doesn't need to, right? Would they turn ace of spades X into a bluff? Find the ace of spades X. There's only ace-queen, ace-jack, and ace-10. We block some of these, right? A lot of people just 3-bet the ace-queen pre-flop. So, like, I'm having a hard time finding bluffs that a player who is, like, not world-class will have. I mean, world-class players here will turn hands like pocket 5s into a bluff, right? But are most people turning pocket 5s into a bluff? Probably not. Are most people turning ace-queen into a bluff? I mean, probably not. This is a spot that I think is going to be habitually under-bluffed by almost everyone. Even good players, because it's really hard to find bluffs here. And on top of that, it's really easy for you, the hijack, to just have a good hand that's going to call. Did it mention which type of player? No. We presume the opponent is playing reasonably enough in a $55 online tournament. So probably good, but not world class. As you see, though, this is a spot where, yeah, we have the power jack of spades. Yeah, we have a good bluff catcher, but I think people are going to be under bluffing. I would fold here basically always. Let's see what Faraz does. Faraz may splash more than me. Who knows?
We're definitely calling here. If there's ever a hand to call down with, it's definitely this one.
So, he says, easy call, because we have the jack of spades, I'm sure. Which I get. I get that we have the power jack of spades. I get that the opponent does not have many 7s. But, find the bluffs. Find the bluffs. There are a lot of spots that come up like this, in my mind, where you want to, first off, ask how many bluffing combinations are there? Is the guy really just going to bluff it off here with the ace-5 of diamonds? You think he's just going to go off with the ace-5 of diamonds? Probably not. Ace-5 of hearts, maybe. Maybe. But, like, it's kind of insane, right? Is he really going to bluff the 9 or the 10 on the river? A lot of people just don't, even though perhaps they should. Is he going to bluff an 8 on the river? A lot of people just don't. So anyway, I'm sure Faraz caught the bluff. Let's see.
We are blocking the straight. We are blocking the flush. We're blocking top pair. They ended up having ace-jack.
Ace-jack of diamonds. Sure, and I actually think this is a fine bluff for the opponent. But I think most people don't take these bluffs. If there is a bluffing hand, though, I think this one's reasonable. And notice this is a 100% hand for the opponent. So sure. Notice, though, they have ace-jack, but ace-10 and ace-9 probably don't bluff, right? Ace-8 may not bluff. Ace-7 is a straight. So, like, you see, we're just losing to a lot of these hands that either would not bet or that value bet. Some dudes are just nuts. Some dudes are just nuts, sure. Let's see what Faraz says.
Of course, there was the 7s, the straight with the 7 there. They don't have that many 7s, though.
I do agree. Most people don't have 7s.
Ace-7 suited, possibly. I don't know if they're going to bet that on the flop or not. Maybe ace-7 of hearts, but not too much concern with the 7.
Not too much concern with the 7, but the question then becomes, are people going to value bet 2 pair? And I think they will. I mean, if they have random 2 pairs, I think they will. And notice, king 9, king 8, king 10. Do they have king 10, king 9, king 8? They have some. Do they have 10 9, 10 8? 10 9, you see. Not necessarily 10 8s. So they do have a decent amount. They obviously have some sets, right? Tough spot for sure. So anyway, that is a quiz. And notice, I actually disagree with Faraz on that river spot. So what does that mean? Does that mean that one of us is terrible? And the answer is no. People are going to have different strategies, different theories. I would recommend you find a coach who's a good, strong winning player, who vibes with you, who you enjoy, whose strategies you typically tend to like to implement, right? And all the coaches on Poker Coaching are good, strong players. They've been fully vetted by me, and I would be happy to learn from any of them. So anyway, that's the quizzes. Next, we have the courses. All right, at the top of the courses page, we have 3 giant courses: Cash Game Masterclass, Tournament Masterclass, and Master the Fundamentals. Master the Fundamentals is a basic course that is free. It'll teach you everything you need to know if you know nothing about poker, and you will get all the way to being okay, to where you can make full use of the site. It became clear to me after I made PokerCoaching.com that the site was too advanced for a lot of people. So I made a crash course to get you up to speed. That is what Master the Fundamentals is. Let's take a look at the tournament Masterclass, okay? Cash Game Masterclass is going to be similar. Here's what we have. Give it a second to load. Whenever you're streaming, inevitably stuff goes slowly. Here we have all of the parts of the course. Introduction, pre-flop, flop, turn, river, ICM, various adjustments, finances, other topics, US Poker Open hand history review, additional hand history reviews, and other resources. All of these. Let's go to the flop section. As you see, we go to the flop section, and then you can go through any of these videos. Ideally, you start at the beginning and work your way forward. But let's just click on, I don't know, turn strategies. And let's click on continuation betting. We click here. It'll bring up a video. We have finally made it to the turn. And in general, your turn... This is a 16-minute long video. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We have a feature here where you can speed it up if I talk too slowly. It's usually not my problem, but some other coaches talk slowly. And then, after you watch this video... Strategy is not a queen. They're not going to have a queen. Watch the whole video. Still going to apply. Lots of strategies you can implement, etc., etc. A lot of equity. We go through the turn, continuation betting, and sizing flowchart that'll roughly teach you when to bet the turn and what size. Then you can take a quiz. You click Start Quiz. And after each of these videos, remember there's a whole bunch of them, you'll be quizzed. Which of the following are typically negative equity turn cards for the flop continuation better? Select all that apply. Turns that pair the middle or bottom card, turns that complete a lot of your opponent's draws, turns that bring an overcard to the board. Which of these are bad for the flop continuation better? If you watch this video, you will know this answer. If you've not watched this video, maybe you don't. So what are the answers? What are the answers? What is the answer? Type it in the chat. To make it easy, we have 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Does it play on 2x speed? Yes, it plays on 2x speed. You probably can't understand me, though. Can you do a Tristan quiz? No, we're not going to do any more quizzes. Go to pokercoaching.com/free. You can do all the quizzes. Some are saying number 1. Some are saying number 2. Some are saying the top 2. I can tell you. Turn the pair, the middle or bottom card are really, really, really bad for the flop continuation better because the flop continuation better is going to be checking a lot of middle and bottom pairs on the flop. That's just good, solid poker. For example, going back to this example again, Queen 10-2. Look at how we play our 10s. It may look at how we play our 10s. 2's not necessarily, but look at how we play our 10s. Pretty much all the 10s check. Almost all the 10s, besides Queen 10, which is 2 pair, checks. So, if you bet the flop and your opponent calls, you don't have very many 10s, because you would have checked them, and they're going to check call all of their 10s. So middle or bottom pair is really, really bad for you. So we know that that's going to be one. What about turns that complete a lot of your opponent's draws? Well, obviously that's bad, because now they have a lot of nuts. What about turns that bring an overcard to the board? This is not such a great example because we're not betting all that often here. But typically you're going to be betting with various overcards on the flop. So this is actually going to be a pretty good card for you. So we select these 2, click choose, and we got it right. We get a little bit of an explanation here. We click next. We take another quiz. What happens to our turn betting frequency on bad turns? Turns that decrease our equity. Does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? How does this impact our turn frequency? As you see here, we have a beautiful flowchart that explains what you do on bad turns. Bad turns, you bet very infrequently. I know this might be a little bit small for all of you to see, but you can blow this up on your computer. It looks big. As you see, these are going to be spots where it goes down. Our turn betting frequency goes down on bad turns. Basically, everyone got that right. I think this tells you that 4% of the people got this one wrong. Everybody knows this. Okay. When you have the nut advantage and are betting a polarized range on the turn, should you bet large or small? When you have the nut advantage, when you have the nut advantage and are betting a polarized range, should you bet large or small? Kind of an oddly phrased question. When you have the nut advantage and are betting polarized on the turn, I suppose we got to bet large, right? Because we're betting with our best hands and some junk, and we have a reasonable nut advantage. To be fair, though, if we don't have the nut advantage, we'll still be betting a pretty strong range. I think we just go large here, clearly. Large. When we have the nut advantage polarized, you should bet large. Fine, next. Okay, we got them all right. We will have watched this video. We click next topic. It'll move us right to the next video. We can go through some examples. Now let's discuss. Now I go through a whole bunch of spots of how to play various boards. Some turns. These big cards that don't pair the board line up very, very... we go through and we discuss which turn cards are good for you or bad for you. So under the gun +1 versus big blind. You raise under the gun +1, which is early position. Big blind calls. Flop comes ace jack 5. They check. You bet 2/3 pot. They call. On the turn, this chart here shows you which turns give you the most equity. King, queen, and 10 are going to be really, really good for the under the gun player because that's going to give them a lot of straights and 2 pairs, right? You may say, shouldn't an ace be good? Like, it's fine, but you got to realize the big blind's going to check call all their aces on the flop. And if you have an ace in your hand, or sorry, if they have an ace in their hand, and you have an ace on, or there's an ace on the board, you're pretty unlikely to have an ace. So ace is actually not all that good. Notice the jack and the 5 are particularly bad for you because your opponent's always going to check call their jacks and their 5s, whereas you're going to check back some of those, maybe. Notice the spades are also pretty bad because those complete a lot of the very obvious draws for your opponent. You'll start to see these patterns over and over again. Fast forward a little bit. We'll show you that on turns that are good for you. Remember the ace, the king, and the 10, you bet very frequently. The reds are bets, greens are checks. The jacks, you bet very infrequently, one of the worst cards. Notice the spades, also ones that complete the opponent's draws, are really, really bad for you, right? So you see, like, these patterns will come up over and over and over, and I'm going to go through a bunch of examples to make this type of thing very, very clear. So you'll go through, you'll watch this video. We'll show you exactly how to play on various turns, like the 2 of hearts. This is a decent, it's like an okay turn. And you see you're betting very polarized, which will often be the case. And don't bet because they don't want to bet and get raised. They often just check. Where some weaker hands like 10-8 is betting. Also notice the small pairs are. I'll go through and show an implementable strategy, kind of like the poker coaching homework, right? So anyway, then we have a quiz. We go through, we take the quiz. When the flush comes in, is it good, neutral, or bad for the in position? Flop continuation, better's equity when against the big blind. We know it's bad. We just took a look at that, right? Big blind has more flushes than the in position player. When you're under the gun +1 and versus the big blind in the turn of the 10 of diamonds, should you c-bet the turn at a high frequency? We already know the answer to that's yes, right? When you're under the gun +1 versus the big blind in the turn is a 2, should you use a small or large bet size on the turn? Notice here, mixes it up. Oh wait, this is the wrong spot. Always want to make sure you're looking at the right spot. Ha ha ha. Let's see. Fast forward. As you see, mostly a large bet size on the turn because we're betting polarized, right? We got it right. Good. Fine. So that is the tournament masterclass. It's big. There's a lot of parts. A lot of parts. Same thing for the cash game masterclass. Exact same thing, but going through a bunch of cash game spots. Fine. We also have a bunch of other courses. We have some featured courses. How to crush small stakes cash games, discussing all sorts of exploitatable strategies to beat these small stakes games. Let's take a look at this one. Let's also take a look at Alex Fitzgerald's How to Play series. All right, so let's take a look at these 2 courses. We'll go through, show you very similar. We have introduction, pre-flop, and post-flop tips. As you see, here we have pre-flop bet sizing and the quiz, raising wider than GTO, and the quiz. Lots and lots of videos going through these spots with quizzes. You want to make sure you are quizzing yourself and testing yourself. Here's Alex Fitzgerald's series. How to play, ... How to play aces, kings, queens, jacks, 10s, big aces. Let's click on jacks. We click on jacks. How to play jacks. 5 parts of videos on how to play jacks. I think these are actually pretty long videos too. Yeah, this is a 40-minute long video for part 1. This is like a 4-hour course on how to play exactly pocket jacks because you all asked me this question. And Alex Fitzgerald went through and answered all of that for you. So as you see, lots and lots of courses. We have cash game courses, how to beat loose live cash games, how to beat wild games, etc., etc. You can click see all and it'll show all of them. Lots and lots of tournament courses, 41 of them. All of these are many hours long. We have mindset courses featuring a lot of the mindset experts, such as Dr. Trisha Cardner, Elliot Rowe, Jared Tendler, etc., etc. Fine. These are our courses. Take a look here. We have lots of courses. I cannot make it any more clear to you how much content we have just in that section alone. Next, we have our classes. These are usually pre-recorded content by our coaches on specific topics, or they are like live streamed content. Here we have the most recent classes. We can click see all. I just clicked the wrong thing. I did. My bad. I don't know what I clicked there. Give me just a second. All right. See all. Okay, so here's all the classes. It will just load and load and load and load and load and load and load indefinitely. Okay? But a nice thing here is you can search whatever you want. Let's type bluff. I don't know. And then it will bring up videos that are specifically tagged to bluffing. Finding Creative Bluffs by Jonathan Jaffe. This will be a video by Jonathan Jaffe, one of the most creative bluffers, on how to find creative bluffs. When to Triple Barrel Bluff by Tristan Wade. When to Give Up on a Bluff by Jonathan Little. Overbetting the Turn as a Bluff by Jonathan Jaffe, of course. Turning a Marginal Made Hand into a Bluff by me, right? And you can search all sorts of stuff, like, I don't know, Big Blind. We search Big Blind. Big Blind play in tournament database review. Finding unintuitive turn bluffs against the Big Blind, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, you see there are lots and lots and lots of classes available. Tons of them. Even takes a minute to load. There's 574 classes. These are all 30-minute to an hour-long videos. Figure it out. How much? You can sign up for pokercoaching.com right now to get full access at pokercoaching.com/premium. Here we have multi-part series. These are longer series, like Faraz Jaka's World Series of Poker Review. One of my favorite things that we managed to get are Draft Ganger and Michael Acevedo, the streaming together, where they go through lots and lots and lots of deep runs that Draft Ganger has in his tournaments. For example, $10,000 high roller final table, 2K final table, $25,000 buy-in, win. You wanted 25K the other day. 5K, PLO knockout review. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. First place, etc., etc., etc. First place, first place, first place. That's all Draft Ganger does, is take first place. Notice all of these are very, very long. It is with both of these guys.
Hi guys, my name is Michael.
Going through these spots together, talking to the chat, etc., etc. All these are filmed live, by the way, so you can actually get in there and interact with them live. Okay, so those are the classes. What's next? Challenges. These are set up such that every day for some number of days, we will send you something new to go through. A new piece of strategy content for you to study on that day that will help you develop good study habits and will teach you skills for something very specific, like our 5-day Preflop challenge that came out just the other day. It's completely free, where for 5 days, each day, we will send you something to study and a quiz to make sure you understood that. This will go a long way to helping you improve your skills. We also have 30-day cash game challenge, 30-day tournament challenge, 3-betting challenge, etc., etc., etc. So lots and lots of challenges. Homework, we already went through the homework. We discussed that. Play and Explain. These are live streams. These are live streams of our coaches playing whatever games they normally play. Draft Ganger streams very frequently for Poker Coaching members, where he's just sitting there, loading up a session, playing the highest stake games. He guarantees a final table every time. Brad Wilson streams a decent amount of cash games for us, playing mostly 5-10, something like that, online against tough opponents. We have Matt Affleck streaming his regular sessions. Faraz Jaka streaming sometimes. So anyway, all of that is available as well. Hand history reviews. I think we're kind of killing off this section, honestly. Did we get rid of it already? Oh no, these are just reviews where the coaches review their own hand histories or their students' hand histories. So very specific types of videos where they are reviewing a deep run that they had recently. All right, let's get to our tools. Poker Coaching app. This is an app you can use on your phone. Simple as that. It lets you access the entire Poker Coaching site. Look at this cute old iPhone we have here. You can download it in the iTunes or the App Store or the Google Play Store. Has all sorts of stuff in there, including some additional features that aren't even on the website, such as a Preflop GTO quiz and a few other little things. You can check it out. We have some free ebooks. And then we have our charts. These are one of the most useful things that I use on a very regular basis, where you can essentially look at this chart and it'll tell you what to do from a game theory optimal point of view in any scenario. Now, let's say we are playing 40 big blinds deep. We are in the cutoff, and everyone folds to you. Here is the GTO Preflop raising strategy from the cutoff. And if you're not raising this, you need to have a very, very good reason for why you are not raising this. Now, I will say that I raise slightly wider than the GTO strategy in most spots because most people don't 3-bet often enough. So I would actually raise a little bit wider than this in most games. But if I'm playing against good, strong world-class opponents, I will very strictly stick to this, maybe even play a hair tighter if I expect to get 3-bet more often, right? So, what about if we're in the cutoff versus a raise? Well, we need to know what position our opponent's in. Let's say they are in the hijack seat right next to us. Now here's our strategy. Red 3-bets, green calls, blue folds. As you see, we're 3-betting very polarized here with our best hands that can get it in, and then a smattering of stuff that's not quite good enough to call or right on the cusp of being able to be called, right? Then we're calling all these hands in green that flop very well. Again, if you're not using this strategy, you need to have a good reason for why you are not using this strategy. What about cutoff versus a 3-bet from, let's say, the button? So we raise the cutoff, button 3-bets us. What do we do now? Shove it all in with the hands in red, call the hands in green, fold the hands in blue. Nice and easy. Again, very polarized strategy. Shoving our best hands, plus a few bluffs, slow play the aces, call, lots of stuff here, right? All right. So anyway, we have that available for cash games or tournaments. We also have downloadable preflop charts. A lot of these are adjusted strategies based on specific games. Like I have charts for playing loose, flashy live cash games, right? It's a little bit different than the GTO strategy because your opponents are making errors left and right. We also have push-fold charts. These are usually very useful for when you're playing like 6 big blind deep. I suppose I'll show you this. Ideally, you don't get down to 6 big blinds. But here's what you'll be looking at. This is kind of tough for you to see. Essentially, though, 6 big blinds on the button. This means if they fold to you, from a GTO point of view, assuming there are no payout implications, this is what you should go all in with. Let's say you fold. Again, this is very useful on your phone whenever you're playing at the table. You click fold, it moves you to the cutoff. Let's say you push and they all fold. Well, now you go up to 8 big blinds and you move over one position in the hijack seat. This is free on the app, by the way. Do not pay for push-fold charts. They're very easy to make. It's like not something you need to be paying for. Plus, ours works very, very easily at the table. Let's say, when I say at the table, by the way, make sure you don't break the rules of whatever venue you're playing at. I want to make that crystal clear. Let's say we fold a hand, fold a hand, fold a hand. Then we shove it all in with the king-9 suited. We get 2 big blinds more. We fold, under the gun +1. We fold under the gun. Now we're in the big blind. There's no shoving range because we're in the big blind. But if you scroll down here, there's actually calling ranges. Now, this presumes your opponents are shoving appropriately, which most people will not. So I will tell you, you often should not follow these calling ranges very stringently, okay? Let's say we fold. Folds around us in the small blind. Let's say we fold and fold. Notice we lost another big blind because we paid this small blind in the big blind. Let's say we push, we fold, fold, fold. So anyway, you see how this is very useful if you want to just be sitting there at the table, quickly looking at your shoving range between hands. Again, don't break the terms and conditions of whatever site you're playing on. Range analyzer. We already showed off this. What do you do if the low jack raises, the hijack 3-bets, and you're on the button? You can't find a chart for that. I will tell you that we do have charts lined up for multi-way spots, but we have not uploaded them yet. It's very, very difficult to implement that thing, or to implement that, especially on a phone app, but that's perhaps coming. Also, I will say that you should probably not be following GTO charts because most people are not raising the low jack with the GTO strategy, and most people are not 3-betting from the hijack using a GTO strategy. Usually, one or two of those players are going to be bonkers loose or super tight. And if that's the case, you should not be using GTO charts. You got to use your brain a little bit when you're playing poker. You'll probably want to be pretty tight, though. Range analyzer, we went through this. We have a PKO bounty calculator. This is a spreadsheet that we have. You can download, and it will tell you how much the bounties are worth in progressive knockout bounty tournaments so that you can make better decisions. You can download this. You can pull it up and use it while you're playing, assuming that's not against the rules of your site. We have the heads-up display that I use whenever I am playing. You can download that. And then we have a private coaching section. You can apply for private coaching with any of our coaches who offer private coaching. You can click on them. You can request coaching. You can request whichever coach you want. James Romero, $250. That's a value. If you can get coaching from James Romero, one of the best players in the world, for $250 an hour, that is a steal. All right. That's our tools. Why not go through the inner circle section? This is essentially a lot of group coaching sessions to some extent. We have our community section. This will take you to our Discord. You'll click right here. Whoops, it'll pop up Discord. And here we have it. This is Discord, where our students are on a regular basis discussing all sorts of stuff pertaining to poker. We have Louis Philippe here. He runs our poker coaching study sessions. As you see, we have tons and tons and tons and tons of members here. And where are the study groups? Here are the study groups. For pokercoaching.com, go to right here to study groups. They do a lot of studying, and they make a point to improve all the student skills, and it turns out they are crushing it. The community is very, very vibrant here. I want to make sure that you make use of it. Make use of the community, please. Please, please, please. And then we have a support tab in case you have any problems. And that's it. That is pokercoaching.com. I realize there's a lot there. I actually have a webinar starting in 12 minutes, so I should probably get ready for that, huh? So let's do that. And later today, at noon Eastern time, as far as I know, I'm going to be streaming a 3 Ethereum free roll for anyone who holds my NFT or a Midnight Wolfpack NFT. You may have no clue what these things are. If you don't, that's okay. Essentially, you'll be watching me play in a tournament that has a $10,000 prize pool. That all you have to do to play is own one of those 2 NFTs. So we'll be doing that at noon Eastern time. I'll be sitting there streaming live. You all said you wanted to see me streaming live poker. This is the best I can do from at home in America without playing on an unlicensed, unregulated, illegal gambling site. Okay? Can everyone hit the like and subscribe button? Yes, definitely do that. How do you get on the Discord? Just click the community tab. Can we teach you to play like a damo? Actually, in the hand history reviews, wherever those are in the hand history review section. We have a lot of videos going through how a damo plays. Essentially, he blasts it. If you look at the way a damo plays and run it through a solver, if there's a spot where he could bluff, he usually does it. And he also exploits his opponents very, 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 very well. So anyway, make sure you check out pokercoaching.com. If you, look, I will say, it's free to try at pokercoaching.com/free. And if you sign up, if you actually pay me money, and you do not like the site for whatever reason, send me an email to support@pokercoaching.com within 30 days after signing up. Tell me you don't like it, give me a reason, and I will give you a refund. So it actually is free to try. If I do not help you improve your poker skills substantially, I do not want or deserve your money. This is not a cash grab where I'm making 5 hours of content, putting it on a site, and then disappearing. I'm here making content all day, every day for all of you. Okay? And I'm going to be here indefinitely. For quite a while. So anyway, check it out at pokercoaching.com. Hope you enjoy it. That's going to be it for today. If you're a Poker Coaching member, remember, the webinar is starting in 10 minutes. Just go right here to pokercoaching.com, click register. You will hop right in. I'll also be back, as far as I know, streaming at noon Eastern time. We'll be streaming that 10 Ethereum free roll, where Deck of Degeneracy and Midnight Wolfpack are giving away roughly $10,000 to the holders of our NFT. You can check out Deck of Degeneracy at deckofdegeneracy.com. That is my NFT, where we are giving back lots of percentages of my tournament action, other people's tournament action. I recently took second place in a $10,000 buy-in tournament at the Poker Go Studio, and holders of that NFT had 1% of me. Some of them did. 50 of those people had 1% of me. So when I cashed for, what was it, $150,000? They got $1,500 sent to them just for holding the NFT. It's pretty cool. We bought some action in Shannon Shore the other day, and he cashed in the $50,000 buy-in tournament. Pretty cool. We're also giving away tons of art, tons of other physical items. We're having a party in Las Vegas if you make a royal flush. That will be coming out, well, June 30th is when our party is. That's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, I made the NFT series I wish existed. It's essentially a membership to everything Jonathan Little can possibly give to you. Which is mainly tournament action, poker advice, cool art, and a good gamble. So that's that. That's going to be it for today. Good luck. Have fun. Make the most of your experience. I'm going to get prepared for the Poker Coaching Homework webinar. Like I said, lots and lots of live content that you can get in and participate on pokercoaching.com. Lots of courses, classes, whatever you need to improve your poker skills, you will find it at pokercoaching.com. I made the poker training site that I wish existed. Both whenever I was starting to play poker, when I was improving as a poker player, and that I wish I had today. I made what I needed to exist, and I'm happy to share it with all of you. So check it out, pokercoaching.com. If you enjoyed today's show, click like, click subscribe. Thank you for being with me, going through this. Hope you enjoyed it. Scott says, Deck of Degeneracy is cool. Well, that's the goal. The goal is to make something cool. Hope you all have a great week. Make the most of your opportunity. There's only 1 week of March 11th. Is today March 11th? April 11th. I don't even know what month it is. Time flies when you're having fun. April 11th, 2022. Do the work, and we'll all level up together. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to all of you next time.